We're going to start the meeting.
Recording in progress.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to everybody who's here in person, a beautiful crowd of folks, and thank you to all of our Zoom friends out there. We're really glad that you're with us. I am Brooke Bishara. Right now, I'm your board president, and I'm not going to talk long. I'm going to introduce Elza, our capital campaign chair, in a moment. But I just want to make a few notes. First of all, a huge thank you to our amazing tech person back there, Kevin Ma, who's making all this possible. We are forever in your debt, Kevin. You make our world go round. And there's lots of other tech folks out there who are helping, who I can't see right now, I'm sure. I also want to say this is not an official congregational meeting. We are not taking a vote today. This is not we're not taking minutes. This is really a town hall, but it's a big town hall. It's an important one because we have procured the services of Rachel Maxwell, amazing UU capital campaign consultant, and she has done a lot of work with our congregation over the past several months, and she provides very deep insights into our readiness to take on this project. And I hope you really enjoy her presentation. It is fascinating. She gave the board and several other committees a preview on Wednesday night. So now it's everyone's chance to take a look at her excellent insights into how ready we are to take on something really big and really important for this community now and in the future. So with that, I'm going to introduce Elza, our capital campaign chair, who has also been doing a lot of work. So thank you, Elza.
Thank you. Thank you to Brooke. Thank you all for being here today and on Zoom. Thank you also for everyone who's participated in getting this far. And I want you to know there have been 4 committees worth of people, over 30 people helping behind the scenes on all this, including Brooke and the board, the vision committee led by Sally, whom you heard last November. Yes? Oh, I know I get to take my mask off. Thank you, Pamela. Also the capital campaign group, and there's been a lot of back and forth with those 2 groups, and the group from whom we're all learning, the stewardship group, headed by David Chen and Jack Owicki. I think you know all that. A lot of you also have been stewards over time, or canvassers we've called them, for the annual funds. And we're learning a lot from all the processes you have used, and you'll see some of them coming again. So thank you so much for being here, but also for everything you've put into it already. I agree. I think this is fascinating, and not only for the potential of the campus vision and the capital campaign, but also for the congregational input. And Rachel will tell you about how she gathered all that. You also heard from her a year ago in November when she talked to the committees and got a sense from them of, yes, you do have potential for a capital campaign. And of course, this is the 75th anniversary capital campaign. We haven't had one for 22 years. And the board said, it's time. So thank you to Rachel, who's about to come on. She was there a minute ago. And I just hope you enjoy it to the nth degree. I hope there's good conversation afterwards. And thank you all. Rachel, over to you.
Thank you, Elza. Thank you, Elza. It is good to be with you all. I am going to share my screen because I always think it's nice to read and see at the same time. So that means that if people have questions during the course of the presentation, I won't be able to see that. So please understand, for those of you online, you can put them in the chat and eventually they will get answered. I'll be doing a question and answer at the end of the presentation. And so you in the hall will need to hold your questions until I finish. But I will be here to answer your questions. And now I am going to share my screen. So I think you all can see your beautiful front door. I love the paint job. Can you all see that? Someone wave at me. Yes. Yes, hopefully. Okay. So here we go. These are the results of your financial feasibility study, which was conducted at the very beginning of this month. But I'm going to start with the chalice lighting. And I chose this chalice lighting because leaders are not just individuals inside of congregations, but congregations are also leaders. And I believe that you are a congregation that leads. And here I'll light the chalice. I have my own chalice, and you'll be able to see it when you see me again. But leaders live in the gap between what should be and what is. That is where the work that most needs doing resides. On one side of the gap, our dreams, our aspirations, our best hopes for each other and our communities call to us. The other side is the world as we know it, beset with human frailty, strife, and pent-up hope. It is here, amidst complex and competing forces that pull and yank on their time and beliefs, that leaders do their work. So I am coming to you as your friendly capital campaign consultant. I've been a UU actually probably for almost 30 years now. I'm a member of the Edmonds Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Edmonds, Washington. I am joining you from my home office here in Edmonds. And I have an MBA in sustainable business, and I founded a community funding platform. I lead workshops in money and value and how we use our money to express our values in the world. And I am part of the Stewardship for Us team, which is a group of consultants that are all UUs that serve UU congregations. And this team has been around for many years. I joined it a little over 5 years ago. So I have conducted a financial feasibility study for your congregation. And what is that? It's something that involves face-to-face interviews, but what it is that I am collecting information and data to discover the feasibility of your proposed capital campaign. What is it that you want to do? And what I do is collect a lot of information, and I am about to give you the results of that information. So feasibility studies are very helpful to congregations because not only do they project how much you might actually be able to raise given your individual circumstances with your very specific capital campaign, but they also provide all sorts of interesting information for your capital campaign team about how to run the campaign. And they also give members of the congregation, those that I interview, more information about what a capital campaign is, how it's going to be run, how does it work. So it's a little bit of preparation for your capital campaign. So I always like to start by anchoring us in our purpose when we're talking about the things that we want to do. You have a mission task force right now that is doing some phenomenal work. And I read the report that they have given so far, and I just wanted to remind you of what it is that you have said about who you are and why you are here. What matters to you most in the world? So why are you running a capital campaign? It is because you want to be fully welcoming to newcomers and create spaces for more community service and collaboration. You need an upgrade to your kitchen. You have needed that for a long time. You've made a commitment toward being carbon neutral in 2030, so you have to make some progress on that. And you need to appropriately care for your remarkable and wonderful facility. So that's sort of why I'm here and why you have been going through this long process, the visioning process that you went through this past summer and fall and leading up to this capital campaign. So here is what it is like in the sort of like, how do you do this feasibility study? This specific feasibility study was done with 33 separate face-to-face interviews conducted with 47 individuals representing 34 pledging units. So this means that I obtained information from 24% of your 141 current pledging units, and that the annual pledges of the people that I interviewed account for 51% of UUCPA's total annual pledges for this past year. I used a very standardized set of questions for every single person, all the households that I interviewed, and then I analyzed the data I got, taking into account all of the kinds of information and what was the sort of emotional response of people, as well as what was the amount of money that could be raised. You'll note that the participants in the study clearly were overweighted toward people who are higher annual givers. So the questions that I asked all of these people, the interviews lasted between 30 minutes and 60 minutes. The questions covered what it was that people knew about the project, how important it was to them, and what was their vision for the future of your congregation, and how important was the project to their vision. Then I did ask people their likely financial contribution to the campaign and factors that might affect their level of giving. I asked folks to tell me about things that have gone well and their concerns. And then I also asked people, because after all, this matters to the long-term health of your congregation, about their wills and estates. What planned giving is there to the congregation in the future? And I asked folks if they'd be willing to volunteer for this campaign. So when I do the analysis around the financial possibilities, I use many different scenarios. I, of course, take into account that the people I interviewed are weighted toward higher capacity and higher annual giving. And then I adjust the results of all of my study for not only that fact, but also the fact that probably not everyone in the congregation is going to give. So first, I'm going to tell you about results that aren't the financial results. Folks were very familiar with the project. Almost 90% indicated they were either very familiar or somewhat familiar with the project. And a full 82% of the people I interviewed had attended the November 20th presentation that Sally made, also the presentation from the mission people, and the had participated in the congregational vote. The 64% about had reviewed the plan means, did they look at that long plan that was sent out and is still available online. So I recommend that everybody look at the extensive plan from the architect. And 82% of the folks that I interviewed felt they had enough information. So folks, I asked them about what do they think about the effectiveness of the planning process and engaging people and educating people about the plan. So folks thought it was a pretty darn good effort, but there was some concern that they held that even though there were lots of opportunities, maybe there was a bunch of people who didn't participate anyway, which of course is always the case. Folks also shared a concern that maybe this project wasn't relevant to your immediate need to build membership and children's programming in the congregation. So when people cast their vision for me for UUCPA 5 years down the road, almost everyone included that the hall would be filled on Sunday mornings. There would be kids running around, classrooms would be filled, and they were concerned that that wasn't happening now. So people did share that they thought that the attention of the congregation should be focused on that particular concern. Families also shared with me that it seemed disappointing that the RE facilities would not be upgraded until phase 3 of the plan. So the project actually was given quite a high rating of importance to the future of the congregation, even though people were a little unsure. They were sure that it mattered to do this work. They just were worried that maybe this wasn't the moment. So in some ways, maybe some of your questions will be around that in the future. But one of the realities is that it's never the exact right moment. And what was it? Someone said in the meeting, when is the right time to plant a tree? This is the equivalent of your planting a tree. When is the right time? Now is the right time. 20 years ago was the best time. Now is the right time. So people were really generally, almost everyone was grateful for the visioning leadership, for the folks who have been working hard on this. This is a congregation that can be appreciative. That is something I learned, a beautiful quality in a congregation. So here are the financial results. When I asked people what their contributions might be to the campaign, sometimes they gave me a range, like I will give between $30,000 or $40,000. So this top numbers you're seeing, the $1.4 million and $1.8 million, are numbers that is the range of totaling up all the gifts that people talked to me about possibly giving. So this is just the range for the participants in the financial feasibility study of the gifts they indicated. And this is 5.5 to 7 times the annual giving of those folks. Now, I think it's important for me to remind you that when I was among you a year ago and I talked to you about capital campaigns and how they work, generally congregations, if all things are healthy and good in their world, can raise between 3 and 5 times their annual giving. That is the general rule about how it is that how much money people can raise. So I want you to know that this looks higher. But understand that these are just the participants. So the gifts indicated for the campaign by these participants ranged from $0 to $500,000. More than 60% of these households indicated that they might be able to give more later if it was close to the goal or there was a second ask. And 23 of the 33 gifts indicated in the study were major gifts. What I call a major gift, a gift over $10,000, with 4 indicating a commitment of over 100,000, of 100,000 or more. So I think it's important to understand these are major gifts. The giving to a capital campaign can happen over the course of 3 years. So when you make a pledge to a capital campaign, you are pledging an amount that you will pay over the course of 3 years. So almost everyone participating planned to make a gift. So here are the results and what they look like. So I showed all the participants something I call a gift chart. So it looked like the 3 columns in blue that you can see here. This is what I showed people, and I asked them, where would you land on this chart? And in the yellow, I am indicating where they landed. And so this gift chart can be useful, but I just made it up. The results of your own capital campaign will look quite different from this gift chart. And I used a gift chart that added up to $5 million because that was the total cost for the phase 1 part of the vision plan that was created. So we wanted to know if there was capacity to raise $5 million, despite the fact that the general rule for what congregations can raise would have been for your congregation between $1.5 and $2.5 million. So I indicated a cornerstone gift on the gift chart there of $2.5 million. So participants ranged in age from 32 to elderly. 11% were under the age of 50 and 26% were over the age of 75. I thought it was a strong reflection of probably what your congregation actually is. And it was a good range of ages. Income, also a strong income range from people earning annually under 50,000 to over 500,000. And 22% of the people interviewed currently have children in the RE program, and another 39% have had in the past. So another thing that I like to make sure is the case is that you understand about quartiles of giving, and then how many people I interviewed. This shows whether or not I had a nice, strong variety of levels of both capacity, meaning amounts of money they are able to give, and commitment. Like, are they committed to the congregation? Are they giving as much as they can? So quartiles of giving are like, if you take the total amount of pledged for the year, which was about $512,000, and you divide that into 4, and you put all the pledges in order of size, the top quartile is the number of families that made up 1/4 of the total amount pledged. So in the center column in here, it shows the number of households in each quartile, the top, second, third, and fourth. And this is a good balance. It's a fine balance. And you can see on the right the number of households I interviewed in each quartile. So the results are that you should be able to raise between $2.3 and $2.8 million. This is 4.5 to 5.5 times your total annual giving for the congregation. So this is a really strong financial feasibility result, and I am so pleased for you. You could stretch it to 3 million, and I will share with you that in the initial phase of the campaign, I've never seen anyone make their stretch goal. They've always kind of had to do a second call, as it were, to ask people to raise to get all the way to a stretch goal. Now, you could be my first, but there you go. So this is the amount I believe you can raise, $2.3 to $2.8 million. So what do you do next? Your leadership has to determine the scope and prioritization of the project. I think you ought to give families a little more time to give you some input. And I'm not exactly sure how to do that, or maybe include some of the RE upgrades in higher priority items. And that would be for the leadership to consider. Think about using some of your considerable other funds you already have for this project, or for your more immediate, consider some immediate upgrades to attract newcomers. So things that are more cosmetic than the visioning plan really was all about. That plan was about the deep things that you need, and about your long-term future. Doing those things will make your facility ready for many more years. This, you might consider doing things like you did over the summer, painting the facility where it looks so gorgeous. I love those doors. That's why I took that picture of those red doors. Anyway, then the people who are going to be visiting stewards need to be trained to do it, and you need to have a party, a celebration to launch your campaign, or something that's just fun. Then in a capital campaign, every household is visited by a visiting steward. So I want every person in this meeting, and talk to your friends about it, to consider volunteering to be a visiting steward. This is important work. It's the glue that holds a congregation together. I think you'll enjoy it. And I do the training. If you're on the fence, sign up to come to a training. And for those of you who are completely unwilling to do that, commit to saying yes to the person who calls you and says, let's make an appointment to have a visit. This is important work for a congregation to do, and it can be a beautiful connection tool. So I leave you with these words: make no little plans. They have no magic to stir the blood and probably will not be realized. Make big plans. Aim high in hope and work, remembering that long after we are gone, our work will continue to be a living thing. Remember that our children and our grandchildren are going to do things that would stagger us. So make no little plans. So that is my report to you, and I'm sure you have many, many questions. So I invite you, I will stop my screen share so that we can talk to each other. There we go. Questions?
Oh, wait. Oh, there we go. Thank you so much, Rachel. It's such a pleasure to hear you again and to hear all those insights. I think maybe we'll start with any questions in the room, and then we'll go to the Zoom chat. Anybody? Okay, here's Randy.
Rachel, could you go back to the next step slide?
Hold on. I have to share my screen again to do that. And share, here we go. Wait a minute. And then go back. Let's get in there. There you go. Can you see it?
So consider the use, yeah. So the third bullet.
Yeah.
So is that cosmetic? Are we looking at making the buildings look more attractive for newcomers, or what specifically are we targeting there?
That was what I was thinking about, but I think that is something for you all to decide. I mean, I sat in the library the whole time I was doing the feasibility study. And you could replace the Venetian blinds in there. Just
Okay.
so things, you know, when people show up who are newcomers, they want a place to be, gosh, somebody was saying how wonderful, what, maybe it was Amy. They want a place to feel good. So it needs to be as if you cared for it. It has to feel like you cared for it and you care about it. So those things can be very minor things, but I would invite you all to think about that instead of thinking about it from the point of view of we don't need specific things. Does that make sense to you, Randy?
Yeah, actually, so none of this is related to actually investing on marketing or other programs to attract people to the church. Once we get them there, I understand those upgrades, but there's nothing talking about how do we enroll people to actually come to the church.
But you ought to be thinking about that. So that is, that just is slightly out of my, I was thinking about facilities. That's why that's not on there.
So just to address your question, Randy, membership and growth and the board are meeting in January to work on the other parts of attracting newcomers. Rachel's scope is limited to, you know, this particular capital campaign project, but I think her point was, you know, maybe replacing the chairs in the classrooms would make a difference to a newcomer, and that's something we could do immediately. So it was sort of a side suggestion outside of the scope of the project. Yeah.
And in the, Rick, if I may speak up, I will just share that it is a side project and it was very important to the people I interviewed. So it will, what you do about the work to bring newcomers in will affect the results of this capital campaign. If you do work to bring newcomers in, I believe the capital campaign will go better.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to go over to Bill.
I wanted to partly respond to Randy's question. I want to point out again, for those who don't remember, that some dozen members of the Vision Task Force have been working for 6 months to figure out what are the most important things. And we have reported to you recently about, along with the architect, as to what we think is the most important stuff. And among those things that is a new kitchen, which is very much geared not only to serve our current membership, but is geared to bring in a lot more activity around the campus. And that should help boost membership. That's what I believe, anyhow. And the HVAC upgrade in the main hall will not only cut our carbon footprint somewhat, but it will also make the main hall a more comfortable place for our services and for renters who want to use it. And that brings in more income. And it brings in people who become acquainted with the church. So I don't, we may need to do even more work on what will be helpful to participation and membership, but I want to point out that we haven't overlooked that by a long shot, in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
I
Bill.
think that is very important to note, and I did not intend this to be suggesting that you are overlooking it. I just wanted to reflect the concerns of the people I interviewed. So there is no question. And I thought, just you reminded me that I didn't put in this, although the written report that I have made, I did put background in. I was brought in a year ago because you all said you wanted to remodel your kitchen. I came out of that process talking to lots of people, suggesting that you might think bigger than just remodeling your kitchen. So just sort of so you understand the history of this, and that was embraced, my suggestion by many. Hooray. Okay, next question.
All right, I think maybe, unless there's someone else in the main hall, we should go to our Zoom friends and address questions there.
Yeah, I see a couple of questions in the chat. And one person just was asking, would the slide deck be available for folks to look at? And will you be posting that? Is that, I know that I am happy to have it be posted. Is there, I think that's in the plans. Yeah, Sally's
we
got a
can-
thumbs up. Got it.
Yeah, we can get that posted.
And then Barbara asks, say more about give families further time. And that's a really good to point out that I said further time. I think I mostly mean further airtime. So I think that could look like, and I know that from the presentation I made to your leadership on Wednesday, this is already being taken up, but that could look like going and speaking to families on a more individual basis, trying to get their input more. They had opportunities and they acknowledged that in the study, but they also felt that families were not able to be heard because of their just crazy, mostly because of their crazy schedules. So so that is what I suggested. And I think that Elza and Kat and others might be working together to make connections with families already. Anything
Elza
else?
says, yes, we are.
Yeah.
Other questions on Zoom or in the room?
Okay, so my question, I think, is next steps in a way. In the presentation that we had from Sally's group, and Sally did a magnificent job in that presentation, I thought. The part one was for $5 million, and we now see that it's feasible for us to raise about half of that. So what happens next?
Yeah, Rachel, I might address this first.
Thank you.
A very important question. And Elza, Sally, and Jack Owicki and I have been talking about what will be the process by which the congregation will prioritize these projects. We know that the kitchen and the electrical system and the HVAC of the main hall are like our core piece, right? And we know that we can do that. Well, I don't want to throw around numbers, but we're pretty confident that we can do that. If we raise, let's say, $2.8 million, we can do those projects and still have some money left over for a few of the items on the list, right? It could be the bathrooms. It could be the patio upgrade. It could be something for the classrooms, right? We don't know exactly how much we're going to raise yet, so we don't know exactly how much will be left over, so we don't know exactly what project makes sense, and we don't know what people would, you know, in some future meeting say, we want this, right? So right now we're in the process of working out how will that process, when will that process take place? Do we need to raise the money first, know what we've raised, and then make the choice? That seems to make sense, but the campus vision team is also very anxious to get going. They want to know now so they can engage the architects again and create the design. So in a way, it's TBD, but we have pledged that the congregation will definitely have a chance to weigh in again. It's a big decision, what we're going to do, but we are pretty confident that those core projects, we are going to be able to raise the money to do them. And we are keeping in mind that we're going to have to reserve some of the money we raise to account for lost rental income while we lose part of our facility. And for rent, we'll probably need to pay if we're going to temporarily move our worship service and RE somewhere else, if that is necessary. And we may also need a bridge loan. You know, if people are paying over 3 years, we may need to have some income or have some money to cover the interest on a bridge loan. So we're wrapping all that together and seeing how it will play out. Rachel, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think I just want to say that, well, I want to say give generously. Partly I want to say that one of my recommendations in the written report was suggesting that you create a 5-year financial plan so that you fully understand, like assuming the capital campaign is happening, you could run and that what is going to happen as far as cash flows, monies you need, but also where are you spending other money in tandem with this? Will you have, like when you lose, when you have to shut down and lose rental income, which Brooke talked about, but what about the future when you have a brand new kitchen? Will your income be increased? So I'd like to see a planning process that makes some predictions around all of that as well, because that can be helpful to you. Like if you only think the short term, oh my God, we're going to lose, whatever it is worth of rental income, and you don't see that in the long term, we're thinking we're actually going to gain a lot of rental income, that can feel very different. Like you're making an investment in a future. What does that future look like?
Thank you, Rachel. Oh, we have a question from Marilyn.
Yes, I was wondering, Rachel, when you spoke in your presentation about some of the people you talked to being possibly willing to give more generously if something. And I wondered whether that if something had more to do with what the priorities turned out to be. In other words, some of these issues like the families being dissatisfied with the plan and so on, and how much of it has to do with people's feelings about whether, I don't know how to say this other way than to say, I want to see if other people come through, because if they don't, then maybe we're really not as committed as we think we are, and I don't want to put my money on a dying ship. Which of those, or what proportion?
Yeah, so I ask a specific question of almost every household I interviewed, which was, if there was a second ask, might you be willing or able to give more in the future? Something like that. That's not the exact wording, and 60% of the people I asked that question of said yes. So that's very specific. They did not qualify it. So people do speak to me about specifics during these interviews that are like, well, if this happens, then that. I only report on those. I don't ever report on very specific ones, and I only put that kind of commentary into the report if it's over a bunch of people saying the same thing. So, yeah. Does that answer your question, Marilyn? Maybe, not really.
All right, what I really want to know, I mean, what I understand, and it is new information, and I'm pleased to know that there is disagreement about the plan, about the priorities, about what we should be doing first, and so on. I got that, and that's good, really good to understand. But the other thing I want to ask is, I'll just say it. I've been hearing word on the street that people think this place is going down the tubes, and they don't want to put their money where it might be dying. And I don't think that's true. I know it's not true, and I came here and ready to say a big speech about why it's not. And if you want to hear it, I'll tell you. But I want to be sure that that's not what's going on. Oh, and if it is, I'm going to talk you out of it. But okay, that's what I.
Okay, Marilyn, can I respond to that, or do you need to time in the hall? You are not a dying.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah, you are not a dying church like that. You just aren't. You are a thriving church. That's real. Perhaps part of what can prove that to you is that in these times, in this current pandemic moment that has been going on for years, nonetheless, I believe you're going to be able to raise close to 5 times your annual giving. That's huge. That is really important for you to understand. You're at the top end there of the what we usually see. That is not a dying congregation. It's not like one person made, I didn't get that cornerstone gift that was on my gift chart of $2.5 million. I got gifts that were across the board. So I think that this is important for you all to get. Yes, your classrooms aren't as full as they were 3 years ago. Yes, your hall is not as full as it was 3 years ago. Yes, all of that, yes. I have seen almost 0 congregations whose classrooms and hall are as full as they were 3 years ago. So this is part of our current reality. The current reality is that the pandemic has been an enormous hit for congregations in all denominations. You, however, are thriving. You have people, you have congregants, you have a good minister who is still with you. You have, a fabulous new religious education minister. You're thriving. You're good. You're good. Keep going, folks. Keep going.
Thank you, Rachel. I just want to say that when Rachel talked with the board and various other committees on Wednesday, we had this similar conversation. And I think what we are finding is we need to find this confidence that, yes, not only can we do that, but we can find new members at the same time, that we have this deep well of strength, and we have people who are concerned and willing and wanting to work on it. That it's not that we have to choose this project or that project. It's like life. It's everything at once. It's complex, but I think we do have a very deep capacity. Otherwise we wouldn't be in this moment. We wouldn't have hired Rachel. We wouldn't have all these amazing committees doing all this amazing work. So 3 cheers for us.
Yay.
Yeah. Oh, Maya?
Yeah, sorry. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Marilyn. I really appreciated actually what Marilyn did say. And I, not to be a Debbie Downer, but I want to give us a bit of reality that I think we are preaching here literally to the choir. Those of us who are here are those who believe that UUCPA is thriving. I think those of us who are not here are possibly in that camp of questioning, why am I always getting requests for more money, for more of my volunteer time, for more efforts to go out and evangelize, to bring new members. So first of all, I hope Marilyn is signed up as a steward. we have to clone her. But I think we also do need to very strategically think about how we are delivering this message to those of us who are not in this room about the fact that UUCPA is thriving and we could be so much closer to this vision we have. And just in one concrete matter, I would say personally, I have heard from the very beginning that the kitchen has desperately needed remodeling, but I have not really gotten ever a clear explanation of what this new commercial kitchen will do for us, for growing us, for engaging more of us, for bringing in revenue. And so at some point, I kind of would like to see someone state that very clearly and not just assume we all understand what that means. A commercial kitchen is going to be, you know, nirvana for this campus. I need that a little more clearly. And I think in those ways, there are people out there who are not in this room who haven't come to all of these meetings, partly because they don't think UUCPA physically needs much changing, who will be wondering, why do we need to do this? Why do we need to raise so much money? And what does that do for, you know, the reasons that I come to UUCPA? So I think we do need to be more explicit about that.
Great, thank you. Does someone want to speak to Miles' question about the kitchen who feels a little more? Folks on Zoom, here's Pam.
Okay. Ooh, whoa, that was loud. Sorry. For me, the kitchen is kind of miserable to work in. And Edie and I spend, well, Edie, you spend a ton of time in there, right? It's awful. I think from a commercial standpoint, if I look at this like as a product manager, right, I would say a commercial kitchen allows you to offer a package of services that you can't do right now. For example, when we got married, we'd never considered holding our wedding here. That could easily change with a commercial kitchen, right? There are things on this campus, you could earn a ton more money from having a commercial kitchen. It is part of a package of other things. Edie, what else am I missing?
So for me, one of the things that this is my personal take on the kitchen, because over the years, I feel like we have done some good things in that kitchen. I feel like, you know, once in a while, me and volunteers make some really good food come out of there.
For sure.
So I really have given some thought to, you know, do we need to remodel it? And one of my answers is, I don't think I can clean that kitchen. I mean, the walls, the old woodwork, the dents in places. I mean, you know, we get it to a place where it seems clean, but I don't think it really is clean. And all of the stainless steel all over the place would be a huge difference. And, you know, splashes and, you know, feeling good about where we really are, not having any lingering bacteria and things. I mean, I think I'm not certified in food, in health safety or anything, but I think there's a reason that our consultants are telling us for the uses we have, that we're better off to go to a commercial kitchen. And that means a lot of stainless steel that really can be cleaned. I mean, so that's not the sexiest thing, but I'm so thrilled that we could really clean the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it would look better too.
Yeah, thank you for that. Here's Barbara.
But I think Mayo's point is well taken. We've heard that here. We're the choir. We almost didn't need to hear it. But the literature that we put out, Elsa, are you listening? I think that maybe that brochure that you're working hard on and you were hoping was in final draft needs to say a new kitchen means we can have weddings here or whatever. So, events. Yeah, I mean, thank you.
Oh, wait, you don't have a mic. Hold on. We're going to hear from Chris, and then we'll go to you, Elsa.
I believe, or I think that you believe a kitchen is for cooking, but I have been on some youth conferences, and one of my experience there is very clear that when the youth congregate and do things or so, they have a tendency to do that in the kitchen. So being able to keep a small group or a large group of youth doing something in a warm room, happy having some food and whatever youth do, the kitchen could be an opportunity.
Yeah, I just want to add on my walk over to Elsa that I talked to Chris Corvetti, and she mentioned having a young adult group meeting in the kitchen. You know, they're making their gingerbread house, and imagine the difference in their experience being in a beautiful, clean, modern facility. It's a totally different experience than feeling like, you know, you're in your great grandmother's kitchen.
And I would like to add several points. Number one, this congregation itself uses that kitchen 157 days of the year. That's out of 365. That's almost half. And that's for us. And I don't think most of us know that. And when I counted those projects, I did not count the CRE use of it or the adult group. So it is easily half. It is easily over half.
And our homeless shelter groups, Heart and Home, Hotel de Zinc, the kitchen is a huge part of those.
And Kevin Crane, who couldn't be here today, who pays the bills as our VP of Finance, is adamant about this because he's the one who gets to pay the bills for the repairs, like the $1,000 to fix the stove last year. And there have been other bills over time. Third, Amy herself gets many requests, you guys mentioned weddings, for weddings, which bring in a lot of income. We cannot offer it, first of all, in its current stage, but also if it's not a commercial kitchen. So to be able to get that commercial kitchen, and we have not looked at, thank you, Mayo, you know, an estimate of how much more money could that commercial kitchen come in. But I think that's a really wise element to do. I would like to let you know, Barbara included, who is on our campaign, as well as on the Vision campaign, as well as most recently VP of Buildings and Grounds, all of these hats, that since Wednesday night and starting late Wednesday night, we have been revising the brochure. And I look forward, and I can send you a copy of what Chris Gearing is working on right now to change that copy. She respun it. It is, I think it's superb. But we also want a second part to that brochure, which says, so here, for instance, with those individual projects, like the kitchen, like the electrical upgrade, like having a cool HVAC over, it's not just the summer. We have hot days in spring and fall also, where people here can be comfortable. And it's way more than the Sunday morning services. That too is those weddings. That too is recitals. That too is a lot of our homeless people, Heart and Home, who sleep here overnight sometimes. So you're absolutely right. And I was so grateful to read that because it's great specific feedback from all of you. So I'm so happy to hear that, but please know we have heard, we really are continuing to listen. And by the way, all your feedback on the way is so helpful. So keep giving that feedback. And it doesn't have to be at a formal meeting. You can walk up to any of us. And I have had a lot of people walk up. Yeah. So thank you for all of that.
You'll be next.
So I feel like the conversation here has put me in a slightly odd position, and I'm just going to be frank and state my odd position. I strongly support that we need an upgraded kitchen. And what I would love a little more convincing of is that it's worth it to do the, you know, if we'd gotten the full amount of, you know, fundraising to support all of phase one, I would be so on board with the commercial kitchen. You know, it doesn't have any of the restrictions we've learned. We can do anything we want in there, and there'll be additional rental revenue sources from being able to rent it out to people who have to have a commercial kitchen. But I would love, in the financial feasibility, to, in a sense, you know, have two threads. With the upgraded kitchen, what can we do? Because I bet we could do a lot of weddings. And with a full commercial kitchen, what could we do? Because then there would be rental things that we could not do with only an upgraded kitchen. So I don't know. I think if we, since we're in a place where we have to look at our budgets, we should look at more than one option for what we do with our kitchen. So I'm 100% on board that it's really worthwhile to upgrade our kitchen. And I'd love someone to convince me that going all the way to commercial with our somewhat constrained budget is a good idea.
Okay, Sally, I wonder if you'd like to weigh in on that. It was my impression that Karen told us that given our situation and who uses it, that commercial was our only option. Is that correct? Sally?
I know that Karen has been talking to the county. It's the county that, and not this, oh, I should turn my light on, huh? It's dark here in Massachusetts. Okay. It's the county of Santa Clara that controls what happens in the church kitchen, not the city of Palo Alto. So Karen has been working with the county of Santa Clara. She's gone to them and she's talked to them about what are the uses of the kitchen. She's the one who had us make that spreadsheet of all the events that happen in the kitchen and how many people we serve at every single one of those events. We have a big, long spreadsheet. So she took that to the county and she got the response from the county that it needed to be a commercial kitchen. So it's possible, you know, if somebody wants to volunteer, I do not have the bandwidth to make a deep dive on this. But if somebody wants to volunteer to make a deep dive and to follow up on Karen's interactions with the county and really figure out, you know, if there's any other possible way to do this, I'm open to volunteers.
All right, thank you, Sally. I know that Lisa has had comments for several minutes.
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, had we done this 10 years ago, it would have been a lot cheaper. And if we put this off until another 5 or 10 years, it's going to be double the cost. So it seems to me to use our money wisely and do it now before. I mean, it's such a necessity for for the church and for all of us. So think about that.
So, all right, I'm seeing more hands, but it is 1:40-ish, and Rachel, we're paying her very well for her time. So are there more questions that people are wondering about that Rachel can answer about the fundraising itself? I mean, all these details of the project are going to be hashed out again and again. It's an iterative process, right? We're going to be making these decisions for months, years even, right? You find out new information, you have a new round of decisions to make, right? So we don't have to get into the details of all of this stuff, but the funding of the campaign is what we're really dealing with right now. Yeah, Kathy.
I am aware, but I don't know enough of the details. It seems relevant here that we're looking into sources outside the congregation for some of the money that we might need to use. I believe that the Green Sanctuary is looking into funding for the kinds of things we're doing that would support Green Sanctuary, and I think there are other initiatives. Was that any part of your report or your analysis, or is it still just too fuzzy to take into account?
Yeah, good question. That was not a part of my report. It is still too fuzzy to take into account. I haven't heard any solid numbers, and you haven't, it's not clear what is going to be available and what is not, but I know that there are several different angles that are being worked on. So that would be, that'll be in addition, that would be in addition to the prediction of what you could raise from your own people internally, which is what the numbers I gave you are.
Okay, Bill.
Thank you, Brooke. And since Kathy asked the issue or raised the issue that she did, I'll try to respond. Barbara and I paid particular attention to a presentation from Interfaith Power and Light regarding rebates that may become available under the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act. What a strange name it is for that. But anyhow, and the regulations have not been written to implement the act as yet. And so nobody really knows what's available, but we are going to follow it closely to find out what becomes available. And that's one of the kinds of funding that might be available for, particularly in that case, for energy conservation or energy saving. The other thing I wanted to say is that I don't have an intimate knowledge of the needs in the choir room, and I don't have an intimate knowledge of the kitchen needs, except that I know it would work better when I bring my dinners if the kitchen were improved, dinners for the homeless shelters. But I, as a member of this community, I really want to trust the people who do know what they're talking about, and we can't answer every concern about desire for intimate knowledge of each area of the plan or the way things operate. I don't know for sure what better RE facilities would do for the RE program, let alone won't do me any direct good that I can perceive, but I sure support it. And I think we all want to take that view, and we want to encourage other members of the congregation to take that kind of view.
Yes, Amy has a comment.
Well, and it's a bit of a question for Rachel. I think I know the answer. That I really appreciate Mayo's point and what everybody has been saying about. Yeah, as Bill says, we can't answer every single question, but it falls to us who are enthusiastic to make the connection between our visions of what we want, between that mission. You can go back and look at it in more detail on Rachel's pack and on Rachel's deck and on our website. It's already there. You know why that vision is helped. Why this project helps realize that vision. If you know the answer, tell friends. This is why people support it. And we know there's a connection. We understand what the connection is. This is what Chris and Elsa are working so hard to articulate that. Anyway, I am going, of course, to Rachel's training at the beginning of next month. And I am betting that even if you quake in your boots at the thought of going to major donors and saying, hey, please give us money, what it will do is help you very much to articulate what is the connection between what this community means to us, what we love about this congregation, what our visions are of this congregation, how we will put those into how we answer that question of how do we realize that vision. Please figure out that sentence for me. Anyway, it is not just a training in how to ask people for money. It is a training in how to articulate the connection between this campaign and the vision. And so, Rachel, am I right in that you should go to this training if that sounds like something you want to practice?
So I think that the training for the general phase of the campaign is something that people should go to figure out how to do that. But I think that's not happening until February. So the training for what is called the quiet phase of the campaign, where folks who have indicated that they may make a major gift to the campaign are asked to make a pledge early. So when you do your kickoff, you will have some momentum, which is fun and nice and lovely. So that, yes, go to that February training. You will learn things. You will have ways to figure out how to articulate your vision and why it is that you support this campaign. That's part of what we work on. And in the meantime, you could just think to yourself, okay, I'm going to like sit down and write the 10 things that are the reasons why I think this is important for the future, not just of UUCPA, but the future, the big fat community future, because UUCPA is vital to the future. I mean, every one of us matters, and how we behave and what we do. And you all can be a guiding light in leading what is going on. You've already done some of that. You're very clearly on that road.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, all kinds of things. Like your RE programs are fabulous. So it's good to keep that momentum. The reason families don't show up is because they are just like spent with this pandemic. It's been terrible for them. I mean, it's been terrible for all of us, but in widely different ways.
All right. Thank you. Other thoughts that people want to share? Marilyn.
Matt Rosen and I had a conference yesterday, and one of the things we came up with was the idea of making flyers that we'd hand out all over the place that would be of the summary that we gave at the 11:20 meeting about what you told us about what matters to you in this church. I think, first of all, I think that that's about as good publicity as we could have. I wished last night when this room was full for the Aurora Singers concert, it was full. I wished I'd had him in my hand that I could have passed out. 2, this is a short summary of the speech I was going to give if I felt I had to. If you read that and read what it says we care about, and then think about what we did from day one of the pandemic, we never missed a step. We did it the whole time. We're still doing it. In many ways, this is harder than the pandemic because none of us know what the hell's going on. But nonetheless, we persist. And I have no doubt but what we will continue to persist. We just need to keep the faith and keep at it and show it off to people. The people who tiptoe in because they never were here before, and the people who are coming but they don't know, and here's what we're doing. Onward and upward.
And yeah, I think perhaps all has been said that should be said.
Also, please share with people online that there's a musical, we're getting some musical accompaniment.
We're getting musical accompaniment from a phone. All right, so I guess I am going to say one last thing, and that is just to piggyback on what Marilyn said. This is a part of our faith journey. This is part of our faith journey, what we're doing right now for all of us. And all of us in Zoom land, you're with us too. This is part of why we came here, right? To figure out what's inside and what we really believe, what we have faith in. So thank you all. Thank you, Rachel. We're delighted to have you with us.
Thank you.
And have a good holiday. See you at the solstice.